what's up, guys? We're out of the shack again. What's up? We're here with Dre's and my good old friend Roland from RFLA. We've done a few events together. I've known this guy for a long time, and he's also one of our viewers. So we finally got him to go in here. We haven't seen his collection. He has a big old
crazy
bunch of stuff that we want to check it out, like me too. But we just have to put it together. But he did bring some stuff for us today. And what did he bring for us, my friends?
Well, like you said, I am a little bit of a fan of your show. And
thank you very much. A little bit, guys. As you
a little
see.
bit, I can only take so much, but I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the punk segments.
Okay.
I also enjoyed I think one of the most recent ones, the Brasilero one.
Oh yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So actually, it kind of reminded me of something. I'm a big electronic fan. I'm a big fan of Kraftwerk,
like
which
over here.
everyone should know. One of the most sampled electronic bands in the world, especially.
Well, guess what? Technology is falling on us again. But hey, we're back.
That hurt.
Go ahead.
I think that drop just caused my headliner to fall.
Yeah, well, it looks good though. We're still on.
I hope you guys have insurance because I want my headliner fixed.
Yeah, well, we'll cover that. It's all in the insurance. But here we go. And now, Kraftwerk. A little bit about them. Why are you like a big fan of those guys?
Why? Well, I mean, why am I a big fan? Well, they're basically the godfather of electronic music.
Yeah, they created it.
They came out in the 70s. I mean, when you think about it, 1970, you still had the Beatles.
Yes.
And here you have a band, coming out of Germany, experimenting with electronic sound.
Wow.
There is some. I mean, I think if you search it on YouTube, there's certainly some early footage, and it's very interesting to see.
Around what time they came out?
Kraftwerk came out in 1970.
1970, okay.
So, of course, 1970, I was very, very young, so too young to actually be into Kraftwerk. Actually, I kind of got into Kraftwerk probably 79, 1980.
Oh, a couple of years later.
Yeah, well, I was a teenager, and I had heard, a couple songs, and I thought they were extremely. I thought the music was interesting and definitely very.
Dope,
talking to the band, my first song I ever heard from Kraftwerk, and I did not even know who it was, is Pocket Calculator in Mexico was a big hit, and I got it in a compilation. Like, oh, this is really cool, So that was my first song, and you heard them from the beginning.
Actually I did not. Actually, I think Pocket Calculator was the first song I heard.
Oh,
I heard it here locally. Yeah, but I didn't hear it in Mexico.
Where did you hear it?
I heard it here in LA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And just based on hearing one song, you kind of start digging and you find other things. And then, I kind of found some stuff from,
That's
4 or 5 years earlier, including like Trans-Europe Express, which is one of the biggest hits and probably one of the most sampled tracks that they have.
Wow. Bigger than Tour de France? Because remember, during the breaking years, everybody was into Tour de France.
Yeah, Tour de France came out later.
Yeah.
So, but that was popular with, the robots as well. And, but really today isn't about, well, it is about Kraftwerk and it isn't. I actually, of course, based on some of the segments that I saw earlier,
yes.
I kind of thought that I had something ideal that was sort of a cross.
Nice.
There's a gentleman producer that goes by the name of Senor Coconut. He's actually German, and I think my understanding is he either moved down to Chile, lives down in Chile, and I guess he's a fan of Latin music, and he found a way to kind of merge the two.
Yeah, he
merged a little bit. So he did a cover album. He's done different releases, and I have one other one, but actually this is the first thing I ever heard from him, and I think it came out about 2000 or
99.
Just at the end of the 90s.
Millennial?
So, yeah, but based on some of your earlier shows, I kind of really like I said, I enjoyed the punk segments, and I enjoyed the Brasilero one. That was really good.
Thank you.
I actually did a wedding with a lot of bossa nova and stuff, and so, yeah, right away, picked up on it.
Wow.
I really enjoyed that segment.
His son is very good at that too.
Yeah, very knowledgeable. Kind of reminds me of, kind of myself and other. Actually, yes,
Yeah.
Because actually,
we grew up
the way I know you, I mean, we're collectors. We're actually collectors first. We're music collectors.
Yeah, shout out to the collectors.
And I think that's important to note.
Yes.
That I noticed that. I mean, you guys are playing a lot of genres, and I think one thing you failed to mention is that
we
all own the hard copies to that, whether it's me or you or
yeah.
whoever's playing that. We actually own the hard copies, and those are not downloads.
Yeah,
and I
not
think it's
digital
important.
People,
I think it's
a
important.
hard copy.
Important to support the artist.
Yes, the artwork as well.
The
I love
artwork,
the artwork.
Anybody involved with it, it's important to buy the actual physical format. Not that I hate digital downloads, but there definitely is a difference in quality.
Yeah, there is. Like, you could hold the thing. Like, I like to hold, like, a digital download is like, technically, you ain't got nothing.
You have nothing. Once you lose it, you can back it up as many
exactly.
times as you want.
Yeah,
and,
but right here goes the solid.
And like anything else, the more you copy it, the quality just diminishes.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I agree
so at least the hard copy, you have it, and forever. Well, not necessarily forever, but the format is forever, but it definitely lasts longer, and it is a way to support the artists. I mean, support your artists, buy their releases, go to their concerts, which is what we do.
Yeah, we do.
You mentioned collections, and my friendship with is it Shyster? Is that what you go by? Is that what you go by?
Name, guys. Shyster.
I know him by a different name.
Yeah, that's our show name, guys.
A different name.
I'm not gonna give it up.
But,
it's a secret.
but I think combined, our collection definitely goes into.
It's a grip.
I can tell you, I'm pretty damn close, if not exceeding 10,000 CDs.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, just CDs alone, or are you including vinyl? No, that.
I'm not including vinyl. Actually, I started as a vinyl collector,
and
it took me a long time to change format to CDs.
And
I held out for years and years, and
vinyl has a certain sound too compared to CD.
It does.
Yeah,
it does. It's two different experiences, but I do not find a fault with CDs. I think that there's certainly something to be said for that format.
Yeah. Not only that, I also want to mention, sometimes as a collector, you're going to find that the CD might be worth more than the vinyl. A good example is Missing Persons Spring Session M. That album, when I was looking for it, it was more expensive on CD. And sometimes it's the opposite, depending on what you have and what you're collecting. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think if you read the articles, actually, so Discogs just came out with an article about some CDs that, like the 10 most expensive CDs.
Oh, really? I haven't seen that.
They've sold, like through their
website,
cross-reference website. Their website. They're not a store. Basically, there's different collectors that list their collections, and if they have duplicates, they'll list stuff for sale.
Wow.
And things do come up, and there are some things that are surprisingly expensive. And I think the reason that you're talking about Spring Session M is because that was actually, I think, wasn't that? Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong, but I thought that was a Japanese only release, and it was
originally.
It wasn't necessarily limited, but because it was only, I think, it may have been released domestically, but I remember when we were originally looking for it, and they do have it somewhere. I think it was only available in Japan. Yeah. So if you were able to get it, and at that time, of course, it was the price of an import, which nowadays really isn't that much more, but at the time it seemed. Like a whole lot more.
I've seen it for 100 at one time.
Wow.
So
I believe it.
Yeah, it's just an example, guys. But then again, you also have reissues and things like that, and so that makes a difference depending on what you're collecting.
But I do have some collectibles. So actually, I even brought some collectibles with me, but that's not what we're playing. I think in this segment.
No, we got this.
So.
But, yeah, definitely. So we're gonna stick to the Senor Coconut. Now, Senor, is it because he lived in Chile and he was German?
I think that's just one of his different pseudonyms. I think he goes by many names. I think he's a musician, engineer.
Oh, wow.
He is German.
Wow.
And I may have pronounced, I think I may be pronouncing his first name wrong, but I think it's U. Schmidt.
Okay.
So, anyways, that's just one of the monikers that he uses. And it just so happened, on this one, I was going through the used CD bins.
Oh, wow.
And
Rockaway or I shop with this guy sometimes. So
I to be honest with you, I don't recall which ones. Rockaway is definitely one of my favorite record stores.
Yeah.
Actually, it's probably Actually, I've been going there for the last good 18 years, I think.
And that's here in LA, and the LA area up in
Silver Lake.
Silver Lake.
Yeah. Silver Lake.
Amoeba, another big place in Hollywood. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. So it may have been there, but I remember running into it, and the fact that it said Kraftwerk on it, almost anything Kraftwerk, got my attention. So without listening to it, I picked it up and put it in my CD player, my car stereo. And I was pleasantly surprised because it's really a combination of electronics and Latin
music.
As well? Yeah,
Okay.
But
Yeah,
you know, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But definitely, I mean, if you're a fan of Kraftwerk and a fan of Latin music, this is maybe
A
something
good
you might want to check out.
combination,
Yeah, you might want to check out.
How many albums does he have? Do you know, or is it just?
I don't. I believe that he has a pretty full catalog, but I only have 2,
Okay.
and this is the first one that I picked up. It's not the first one he released.
Yeah.
And I did pick up another one. I can't recall the title, but it also had different cover versions. It may have had like an original too.
Okay.
But it was a lot different than this. So I'm not a full fan of all his work because I don't know all his work,
Correct.
but definitely this CD
This is a good
made
one.
my collection.
Okay. So
I mean,
this-
not made my collection, but made it into my collection.
would you recommend this one for people that look for his stuff to get this one?
I would recommend this to anybody who's a fan of Kraftwerk, and
Like he's doing a cover, you said, right?
it's a cover album. Yeah,
So,
it's basically all Kraftwerk songs.
And I always talk about covers because sometimes covers are tricky. I mean, some people think because they always compare it to the original. Some people, actually, I even believe that some people mess up the cover of the original when they do a cover. But then there's covers that are, believe it or not, better than the original, in my opinion. But then sometimes some of the artists do justice to the cover, to the original too.
This is by no means as better than the original.
Okay. No, and one of the examples.
And I don't want to say it's a novelty song,
Yeah.
because there is some novelty to it. The novelty to it is basically that you have sort of like this Latin flavor to it.
Okay.
Is it danceable? No, but you know what? I mean, I don't know that I would dance to it. I mean,
Yeah. Real catchy tune though, right? Real.
I
it's really well
I
put
play
together.
events. It may not be one that I would necessarily play at one of my events. Actually, I would. I take that back.
Actually, we've done some events
Here's the
together.
thing. Actually, if it's freestyle and I'm doing something, where people are fans of alternative music,
Correct.
yes, definitely would fit into it, and I know people would enjoy it. Now, but if it's a gig, let's say a wedding or something, where this may not quite fit into.
Like we might have the one girl that told us, right? We had an event where one girl told us, we're playing Panamericano, and she goes, oh no, get that Spanish stuff on, which even wasn't Spanish, but but go ahead.
Okay. So are we ready for the song? I guess that's a long
all right,
intro.
guys. So we're gonna put on. I hope you enjoy and give us your feedback. Really good song. I've heard it too. So go ahead, Roland. Put it on, my
Play
friends.
that track.
It's coming.
It's powerful.
You can turn it up.
bonito and David Bowie. Dance, Europe Express. Dance, Europe Express. Dance, Europe Express. Dance, Europe Express.
That was very good. I like that. I can actually dance to that, guys.
Oh, you know what? And I'm going to backpedal here. You know what? I lied. I would dance to this.
It's
I
got a
would
good
dance to this.
bass line, and it's I think it's very. I'm not gonna say it's better than the original, but it's a very good cover. Very well done. I like it. You know, what do you think, compas?
Very cumbia.
It sounds like a cumbia.
Yeah, cumbia.
So that's good. Talk to the Colombian people in Mexico. You'll love that
There you
one.
go.
So anything else you guys want to ask?
Find it.
Oh,
Get
find
it. Collect it.
Okay, there you go. For the
And play
collectors
it.
out there, yeah.
And play it.
A digger, you
Don't download it unless
Don't
you
download it,
absolutely
can't find it.
are in a remote area that.
Wait, will you be able to find it now? Like, at a
Oh yeah.
neighbor? Okay,
yeah,
there
yeah.
you go.
know, the interesting thing is, I think a lot of people missed it when it first came out.
Oh, you see?
So I seem to run across it quite a bit.
Okay.
In quite a few places.
And a
And
digger
it's
would
usually
know.
for a good price, right? Than
Yeah,
this
usually a pretty decent price. You know,
Yeah.
less than a full price CD.
Oh, that's
And definitely worth it. And definitely an excellent addition to anybody's collection. Whether you like Kraftwerk or
Yeah,
you
Kraftwerk.
just kind of like a different take on Latin music.
But you should definitely check out Kraftwerk first, right? Or like,
Oh
or-
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then,
yeah.
like, obviously, if you get not bored of it, but like, all right, I heard enough, maybe switch it up to a little cumbia and cha-cha. merengue.
It's a little good. It's a real good version from a German guy. It's got a lot of like Latin percussion and.
No,
all
that
stuff.
that album is big in the hip hop world for some reason.
Yeah.
Because we looked it up. What's the album called again?
Well, we were talking about Trans Europe Express.
Yeah,
one
that
of the most
album.
sampled
That album is
songs
Yeah,
in the
from
world.
Kraftwerk.
big. And you were
By
talking
Kraftwerk.
about how they're getting their rights back again.
Yeah, there was a lawsuit that was recently settled. I think it ran like 10 years in Europe.
It was a
where
2-second
somebody
sample, wasn't
used
it?
Yeah.
something really small, sampled
Yeah.
without permission.
So don't be
And-
sampling shit
Without
unless you want to
permission.
lose, yeah.
Yeah.
Or
lose
just not